Hello, it's Tom with Digital Foundry. Let's cut to the chase. There's good news and bad news with Batman Return to Arkham's latest 1.02 update. On the one hand, there's a welcome push towards optimizing the package as a whole, getting performance into the state we expected at launch. This means standard PS4 owners now get a far sturdier 30fps frame rate with only a few drops remaining. On the other hand, the stated PS4 Pro support, as mentioned in the patch notes, is hugely disappointing. We spent a few days with it and the results are at odds with everything this system stands for, to the point that it's arguably a step back from how the remaster played on this machine at launch. The basics then. Arkham City now has a frame rate cap at 30fps on both PS4 and PS4 Pro. It means those fluctuations to 40 or 50fps we had pre-patch are gone. Also, for consistency's sake, it pulls performance more in line with the 30fps cap of the Arkham Asylum remaster. It's great news for standard PS4 users because frame rates in Arkham City previously went up and down the scale as it pleased, creating stutter thanks to the erratic output of frames. Yes, it could hit 60fps at rare points, for example hitting the top of the graph while crawling through air vents or looking at the sky, but in practice you'd really be playing in the 30 to 40fps range while exploring the city. A 30fps cap makes a lot more sense on the regular PS4. It's exactly what I wanted from the remaster when it came out, and since 60fps was off the cards, it works brilliantly in making playback motion more consistent. Better still, the frame rate drops below 30fps are mostly ironed out now, showing Virtua Studios has optimized the Unreal 4 engine since release. It's much better, and with no visual compromises to point out either. I ran several fresh pixel counts on the game to make sure, and with patch 1.02 installed, the standard PS4's resolution comes in at lowest at 1344 by 1080, but typically rests at 1920 by 1080 as usual. A dynamic resolution system is still used then, but where it does drop, image quality is identical to the last patch in matching scenes. So basically, there's nothing lost on the visual side with Arkham City Remaster on a regular PS4. Meanwhile, it's fair to say there are still frame rate drops. Notably, it lurches to 25fps when Batman first glides through the city streets. It shows there's still a bottleneck in streaming new assets and enemies up ahead. But patch 1.02's performance is generally much better, and the frame time reading to the left is flattened at 33.3 milliseconds for the majority of the time. Even a test of the Arkham Asylum remaster, which was already capped at 30fps prior to the patch, shows benefits with update 1.02. Remember that this had frame pacing issues while charging through the hallways, but now that's completely ironed out at 30fps with no frame pacing dips up or down. Even the streaming stutters are gone, and moving between rooms is now hitch free, where previously we saw drops to 28fps or so. A curious thing we spotted is effects are added with update 1.02, like new dynamic shadows in the first battle. This works for both PS4 and PS4 Pro, and the net result is Batman casts shade behind him in certain areas, where these spots were previously barren. Okay, let's cover the bad news next. Here's PS4 Pro before and after the new update. Now, patch 1.02 promises enhanced visuals specifically on Pro, but I'll say this up front, I've yet to encounter any visual upgrades whatsoever compared to the last patch. It's the same setup as the standard PS4 in every perceptible way. Even capturing the game at 4K, for example, Arkham City still runs at a native 1080p by default, giving the game the same image quality as Sony's other machine. It may well be that something turns up down the line, but try as we might so far, it's certainly not an obvious upgrade if there is one. More alarming is that PS4 Pro actually uses the same dynamic resolution setup as the standard PS4. At worst, that means PS4 Pro drops to 1344 by 1080, a sub 1080p image that matches the regular PS4's lowest figure. It's the exact same picture and implies its dynamic resolution may not be based on GPU load as we first thought, but instead is manually set for certain cutscenes or areas. In other words, there's no image quality advantage on PS4 Pro over the last machine. It's possible the machine holds 1080p for longer stretches, but the hits to its native pixel output are just as severe when they happen. It's a real missed opportunity, because that sub 1080p image on PS4 Pro goes against the guidelines set by Sony before its launch, and it leaves owners of that machine with no benefits at all. A big frustration here is also in the frame rate PS4 Pro owners are left with. On the last patch, performance was much closer to 60 FPS, leading some to believe it might be possible to go all the way with more time spent optimizing on PS4 Pro. As you can see on the left side, patch 1.01 gave performance in the 40 to 50 FPS range, with the machine's extra GPU power translated to a plus 10 FPS over the original machine. Now arguably, even with patch 1.02's optimizations, it would still be a ways off the full 60 here. It's a big ask. But given the lack of any visual improvements, it's a shame any hope of 60 FPS is abandoned, and Arkham City on PS4 Pro is just capped to a plain 30. To please everyone and put control in the player's hands, it would have been far better to just add a toggle for this cap, much like Hitman. Personally, I do prefer this 30 FPS lock to an unlocked frame rate that may never have hit 60 FPS in the first place, but to strip away that choice from players outright leaves a bad taste in our mouths, and in doing that it detracts one of the few benefits PS4 Pro had in the first place. Overall, patch 1.02 is a mixed bag. In its defense, the standard PS4 is all the better for the straight 30 FPS cap in Arkham City, and both consoles benefit from the improved frame pacing and extra shadows in Arkham Asylum. But by forcing PS4 Pro owners down the same path with that 30 FPS ceiling, with no boost in visual settings or resolution of its own, the only real advantage left is avoiding the 25 FPS drops we get on standard PS4 hardware. Add a locked 30, PS4 Pro offers the smoothest way to experience Arkham City on console by far. But we have to ask, is this enough to satisfy those who bought the machine and the promise that came with it? There's nothing to celebrate visually on the stronger hardware, and with the frame rate lead reduced to a small margin too, it's fair to say the hardware strengths are far from being tapped into. Anyway, that's enough from me. I'm curious to hear what you think, so let me know in the comments below what you make of the 30 FPS cap and what you'd like to have seen on PS4 Pro. Either way, if you found this analysis useful in any way, feel free to like and subscribe. Also, as ever, a high quality version of this video is on our Patreon channel at digitalfoundry.net. You're welcome to check that out, but until next time, thanks for watching.